What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast, and I'm in a place that represents purely building infrastructure through iron. That's where we're at currently, but the road to get here, holy shit, Batman, is it incredible. I'm sitting here with the owner of CrossFit Uprising. Let me repeat that. I am sitting here with the owner himself of CrossFit Uprising, Jason Tomlinson.
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps.
It should have gave you goosebumps.
It did.
So today is incredible for multiple reasons, but before we talk about today, we need to rewind about 25 years and start with the story that ultimately will end as the story of a lifetime. You can't make this shit up, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm telling you, the first time I heard the story, I could not turn it off. When I first heard you on a podcast, Jason, I couldn't turn it off. I was absolutely like, what the hell? You cannot make this up. This is HBO stuff. It's pay-per-view. And we quickly became friends after meeting randomly at the old school gym. You came in on Fridays for doing some shoulder press.
Yeah.
6 months later, we're business partners, I would say. Maybe a year. It wasn't very long.
No, it was pretty short.
I would say 6 months later, we had a brotherhood like no other.
Yeah.
A very quick mutual understanding of who we are, what we've been through, and just one of them unspoken connections that make us like family. Yeah. And so, Jason Tomlinson, today, I'm just going to start off by saying I am so fucking proud of you.
Thank you.
It is absolutely an honor to be sitting here in the home of CrossFit Uprising with the owner himself. Let's start at the beginning. Where did Jason Tomlinson grow up? And let's just start going through this journey of the ride of a lifetime.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm not sure it would have had any, up until I was 5, I don't think I had any odd childhood. My dad worked for a small family-owned company. We traveled a lot. He did a lot of power line transmission lines for electricity. So they installed the great big huge towers that you see that haul the electricity across country.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the energy sector.
Yep. So it was family. His dad worked for him, my grandpa. He traveled a lot, and we just followed where the jobs were. Mm-hmm. Up until I was 5, I lived in 15 different states. So we moved around a lot. And then the earliest memory that I have of everything falling apart was we were sitting in my grandma and grandpa's driveway here in Ohio in a small town not far from here. And I remember I was crying. We were sitting in the front of the truck, and I remember crying because my mom said my dad was going away for a while and that we were going to stay there. And then a lot of memories of moving from their house back into our own trailer, which was moved back here because we lived in a mobile home because we just trailered it around wherever we were living.
Campsite to campsite then?
Actually, just trailer park.
Gotcha.
We had a full size.
Gotcha.
Full size trailer. Yep. Company moved us. We always used their truck and everything. So, first grade, normal, lived in the trailer. Second, trailer park in Utica still. Eventually, we moved out of there and moved down to Zanesville. And I remember going to my 5th grade year. I was still living. We moved to Murray City first, from Nelsonville. My mom had been remarried to her second husband, who was a great guy. Like, he took us on like we was his own kids and everything. And eventually we moved from Murray City, which was a really good childhood. Like, we used to run around in the coal mines and all the old abandoned mines that were left around. We'd run around in the hills, camp out.
I'm familiar with the area. That's where we'd work a lot at.
Yeah. So, basic, typical childhood, small town. Didn't cause a lot of trouble.
When did it change?
When we moved to Zanesville, that's when everything changed. Her second husband became more of an over-the-road truck driver, so he was gone a lot. And then my mom ended up cheating on him with a guy that was right there in the trailer park we were living in. It was just like world got flipped upside down. They ended up divorced. Everything that I knew was, like, I'd known for years, was gone. We ended up moving away from there out into the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere outside of Dresden. And he claimed, like, there was all kinds of things. There was alcoholism, there was abuse from this guy. Couldn't hold a job. Whatever my mom's reason was, is her reason. Like, it is what it is. Like,
You never know what someone else is going through.
you don't.
Yeah.
I have my opinions, and those are just my opinions, and it's something I'll have to live. You know what I
Right.
mean? I have to live with it. He used to claim he was an over-the-road truck driver too. He was in and out. He was gone. Couldn't hold a job. Could hold a job. Couldn't hold a job. And my mom ended up at some point friending a guy, a hairdresser, in Zanesville. And we ended up down there quite a bit. And the next thing I know is, like, at some point we were in and out a lot with him, and Bob had got a job, because his name was Bob. He'd got a job being over the road, and he was gone at one point for actually quite a while. And I can remember finding the pool hall across the street, which when I walked in was like the coolest place in the world. Like,
Probably a bunch of older guys there.
all the big, tough, older guys, everybody shooting
Bikers.
pool, hanging out. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, this place is awesome.
Well, you're probably in search of a father figure,
Yeah.
some consistent, some sort of protection as a father, right?
Yeah.
Someone to look up to.
Now that I'm older and understand psychology a little more, and the studies that go around with kids and so forth, and I, read a lot, and
Looking for what you don't have.
exactly. And kids are that way. A couple things. We know kids want boundaries. You have to set them. They're looking for them, so they're always pushing them. And you're looking for somebody to look up to
Yep.
set the standard.
We all need a hero until we realize we got to be our own.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So I start hanging out at the pool hall while we're down there.
What age is this?
13, 14. About
So you're
that.
probably not even allowed in the place to begin with.
No,
but
it was before high school, because everything that goes down here, the next part of the story, was when I transferred into high school. So, I remember one day going back across the street thinking, I better get back, might be leaving or check in, whatever. And I remember getting over there, and the guy's name was Terry. And I remember Terry saying, "Hey, your mom went home. She said, stay here. She'll be back to get you." And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, no, I don't think so. Okay. So I go back across the street to the pool hall. Next thing I know, I stayed at Terry's that night, and nobody ever come got me. That's where I'm at. So I had run into and met during this time of going in and out of the pool hall. It was the funniest thing. His name was Little Ed. And I had met him by stealing the quarters off the pool table at that point. So I had seen some quarters laying there, and nobody was on the pool table. And I was like,
Dibs.
I'm going to take those. Then I'll go buy something with them. So I grabbed these quarters. Well, about the time I grab these quarters and I start walking, this guy steps out in front of me. And Little Ed's not that, he's as broad as he is tall. Little short guy. Man, he was big. And he's like, give me my quarters back. And I was like, what? What quarters? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, give me the quarters back. I seen you. Like, I seen you take them. It's the oddest feeling in the world. Like when they're like, I seen you do it. I'm like, here. And I gave them to him and I took off. Well, I'd been in and out of there. And every time I'd go over, normally I would see him. I wouldn't go in. I would just kind of hang out and watch. And then when he wasn't around, I'd go in. And nobody made a big deal that I had done it. He didn't even make one of it. But it was a big deal to me that I got caught. So kind of
He
scared
was
me.
probably actually glad you did it, and he caught it, and then could acknowledge it. And right?
So in the end, later
He wanted to see
on,
if you had that edge or not.
yeah, we start talking about it, and it was all. It was about like that. Like, I needed to know where you were at, is what it was. He said, I seen you hanging around, and like, it's not normal to catch a kid like you hanging around here. Like, this
Right.
isn't the normal place for you.
Right. At that age.
So there was a lot of talk, a lot of, later on about figuring out where I was at and all of this stuff. Well, in this time, I start going back. He starts talking to me. What are you doing? Why are you here? This and that. And then a few times, like in this whole time, my mom's showing back up. I would go home. Then we'd go back, and then she would leave, and I would like in and out stay. And then
Did you know what she was doing or where she was going, or did she announce it?
to this day, I still don't, dude. I don't know what's going on to this day.
So she would just get up and leave for a few days?
Yeah.
And you were 13 to 16 years old?
I was probably 13, 14 years old at that time.
Wow.
Like, it's really weird, right? Like, when you look back on it, it's like,
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I hear that. It's completely foreign to me, and it's common to you, right?
it's normal to
Yeah,
me. Like,
you
it
didn't
was
know any
okay
different.
for me, my mom, just to leave and leave me there with this guy.
Right.
With this, like, good enough friends with this hairdresser, I could just stay the night.
Wow.
Not a problem. Well, as me and Ed start to talk, like, I start to understand more and more about what's happening, going on, and then I get introduced to, like, these guys are selling drugs. Like, really? Like, you're making how much money?
Now I can be an entrepreneur?
What is that?
Uh-huh.
Those through conversation and figuring out what's going on, and me and Ed, like, I don't know, like, more like a father figure, I guess. Friends, business partners, whatever.
Right. Technically, yes.
So,
Right.
I start learning how to cook crack and sell drugs. 14. That's normal, right?
Normal,
I
yep.
mean, I think that's what every kid should probably.
Do before high school?
Yeah. It's a trade you should learn. No. It's
No,
not.
kids don't learn
Don't.
this trade.
Not that trade at all.
Joking, complete disclaimer, but anyways.
Yeah, complete disclaimer, just joking. It's not. It's
crazy.
not the lifestyle that it's all cracked up
You
to
lived
be.
a full life
Yeah.
at 14 years old. I mean, people have never experienced that type of environment at
Yeah,
all
like
in their
all
life.
these things of like, I'm almost sure nowadays, like if I would see a counselor, I've probably got abandonment problems. You know what I mean?
Guaranteed.
There's all kinds of shit that goes along with
Guaranteed.
this.
Which is why sitting here today is so freaking epic, Jason, just to point that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything could have happened at that point in time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So in this point in time, I develop all these relationships with all these older guys that are just like street hustlers. To me, they're the coolest people in the world. Right? They're like big brothers.
They're the dad you didn't have, or
Yeah.
big brother, you know?
And I'm the one that like quit doing what we're doing. Go to school.
Yep.
Like get an education, quit this. You know what I mean? They would catch me and want to beat my ass on the side of the street because I wasn't in school.
But you didn't want to go to school.
Oh,
You can't make money there.
dude, I got a ton of
You can't
money.
learn?
All kinds
Yeah.
of stuff, right? I developed a relationship with a really good friend of mine who ended up dead over us drug dealing through the years, which was at that point a lot of wild lifestyle was going on. Wild. Mm-hmm. He was engaged to be married. He had a house, so I was staying with him. We went through a lot. Went through a lot together. And one night, his fiance got a hold of me and was like, Justin's been shot. I go to the hospital. He ended up dying. Kind of left me in a really weird spot. I end up back home for a little while before my freshman year, thinking that I need to get, like, I had to get fucking straightened up here. Like, that shit's for real. Like, that's not normal.
You're not even thinking about jail or
No.
trouble.
I was
You're thinking about being killed.
I'll get killed. And that point in time where I end up back home, my stepbrother, which was my mom's husband at the time, and we'll call him Preacher Bob because he always had claimed to be a preacher and this and that.
The preachers and the mayors, the self-proclaimed ones.
Yeah. It's really, he wasn't.
Yeah.
So we end up back home one night when one night he walked out into the living room and he shot his dad in the head twice with a rifle. He'd been beat his whole life. Like, he had been beat, like, constantly. Like, walk in the door, his dad would get up and punch him in the face. No reason, not say a word, just get up and do it. Like, kind of beat. And he walked out and shot him, killed him on the couch where he laid. And I think Jeff finally felt free because of it. Like, I don't have to take it no more.
The only way he's ever going to escape was that.
That
right?
was, I think that was it. That was the only way.
It's so sad. It's that position is such a tragedy.
Yeah.
You got to think about, obviously what the preacher dad did was horrible, but what had to happen to him for him to become that person?
Yes.
That's the untalked about.
And
thing
I lived it. Like, I seen it. I know. I mean, I don't condone it that he did it. It's like there are other avenues out, but they obviously weren't what he had considered avenues out.
Because the setback or the adversity or the struggles you go through in life do not determine your outcome.
No.
Prime example of where we're at right now.
Yes.
Keep going.
So he ends up dead. He ends up with jail time, prison time, 15 to life over it. My mom ends up with jail time over it, linked to it in some odd, weird way. And my mind doesn't really connect to it, I guess. There's a lot of stories that went around about how, why, won't know.
It don't even matter,
Never know
right?
the truth. Yeah. So I end up adopted and moved to another small town right outside of here. Between here, it's called Homer, with my aunt and uncle.
Know exactly where it's at.
When my mom's in jail. Living, I want to say, normal. 9th grade year through high school, as normal as can be. Like your standard, typical all-American. I'm going to school. My mom's in jail. You know what I mean? I'm a new kid in school. I get picked on. I beat somebody's butt. Set that straight. Don't have to go through that no more. Like your everyday what you hear and watching a movie. And then my mom gets out, takes us back. We move to a farm where she ends up meeting another guy. Ends up with another husband eventually. And then I end up with a car and driving, and it's on again. Let's have fun. So,
What age is this now?
this would have been 16.
Okay.
So, I end up meeting up. I don't know. I guess I used to just always draw those people, or I would find those people. That's my normal lifestyle.
Just like your mom and the guys that she brought
Yeah.
in, she didn't know any better, and for whatever reason, it was an attraction to her, and trouble was for you.
It was what I
Right?
wanted.
Yeah.
So,
It might have not even been what you wanted, but it's the only thing you knew,
it's all I knew.
and it gave you some fulfillment of some sort.
Fulfillment, and it was normal. Like, that was normal.
Well, it was fun, but
to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
it was fun. No offense,
Right.
it was. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, like, the times I had that, like, I look back on them, and at that point in time, it was fun.
you wouldn't have done it if it wasn't.
Yeah. So so I end up running around finding the right people for me. You know what I mean? School, skipping school, bailing out on it. I end up in Columbus a lot over that way. I end up finding I want to say my junior year was probably my most regular year because I went to the JVS and I found something else that I really liked, which was drafting. And I really enjoyed drawing. So like I went through my junior year really, really having fun with it and doing more of it and being more present in school. And I designed and drew a couple houses, a couple for my uncle who was building houses, and one for my teacher. And we'd done a lot of things through drafting that were really cool. And then that summer I had found out it was easier to start loading my car full of drugs and carrying them around than it was to, and a lot more profitable than it was what I was going to do.
Yeah, you don't pay taxes on drugs.
No, you don't.
But you pay the ultimate price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we end up halfway through my senior year, I ended up quitting school just because I was making a whole bunch of money. I quit school. I end up in all kinds of stuff. I mean, it runs so deep. And obviously, we're going to skim the top of this. There's a lot of underlying things. The parties and the people you run across and the things
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, it's the ultimate lifestyle that I wanted. And, at some point, I end up in some people's house, taking some things that weren't mine. I end up charged with burglary. I end up getting 3 to 15 jail time here in Ohio. I go to prison for 10 months. I get out. At that point in time, they called it super shock probation because it was an aggravated offense. You had to do at least 6 months. You could apply for it on your first, because it was my first offense. They let you out. You're on some kind of supervision probation. And all through that probation, I changed. I'm fine now. I'm good. I'm straighten up. Well, the only place I can get a place to stay is with an old friend of mine from when we used to run around on the streets.
So you leave jail after slipping up. You get out a little bit early, and then you go right back into the same environment expecting a different result, or did you already know that?
I guess I expected different.
Not to get caught?
No, I don't know about not to get caught. Like, I'm going to have a job and make some money, and yeah, that's exactly what I did for a little while. We held a job. We worked for his cousin building houses. We were, like things seemed okay for about the first 4 or 5 months. And then it just went haywire. We pulled a shotgun on somebody one night, and I knew it was over. I knew that's it. I was still reporting at this point in time. I'd caught a couple dirty UAs. They'd still not locked me back up for them. Took my probation away. The guy just kept giving me chance after chance after chance. And
you took them all.
I took every one of them he gave me, and I still fucked it all up. At some point, even through this whole thing, we'd even got arrested once for this whole thing. And he still never revocated me. He still never put me back in. Still gave me a chance. And at some point, I ended up just not showing up anymore. Ended up violating parole and just running off.
I mean, he gave you an inch and you took all the miles you could get.
Oh, yeah. I took every bit of it, plus some. And then I end up in Johnstown, running around. We end up in some really, really bad shit one night with the police. We were getting out of the car, and I had a baseball bat in my hand, and I tossed it in the car, and instead of going into the car, it hit the seat, and it fell on the ground. Well, sitting right next to me in the street was a cop. He pulls in, and then another local Johnstown cop who I'd known for years, and he had tried to bust me numerous times. He just never did.
There's no good faith at this point.
No.
You're way past that.
Yeah.
They want your ass
Yeah,
off the street.
he wants me bad. So we're standing there, and he's standing there, and he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "You know who I am?" He said, "What's your name?" And the guy standing with him's a rookie, and I know you can see it. I'm like, he's trying to make a point. He's trying to get me all at the same time. We're standing across from one another, and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Jason." He goes, "Jason what?" I said, "Tomlinson." And he goes, "That's what we thought." And he looked at the rookie, and he said, "Put your hands." And when he said, "Put your hands," I didn't hear the rest of the sentence.
Gone.
History. So I ran that night.
And I mean, you're probably genetically, naturally fast.
Yeah, I was at that point. I weighed 100.
Small.
Yeah, I was a small guy at that point. So like by the time I turned around and seen them coming after me, I was 2 blocks ahead of them when I seen their flashlights. I'm like, it's easy.
Buckle up, everybody. This is where it gets crazy.
So I end up at a friend's house listening to her scanner. Cops are coming. They know, like, at this point, the cops know a lot more listening to that scanner than I realized they knew.
Mm.
And
they had been watching.
I had been watching, and I'm not sure
been.
somebody wasn't telling them stuff that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they end up coming to his house, which is his mom's place, knocking on the front doors. I'm going out the back. I take off from there and go down to another house somewhere I used to stay, which was an ex-girlfriend. They show up there. As I'm showing up, they're leaving, already checking that house. She wasn't even my girl. She hadn't been my girlfriend for a while, but they knew at some point I'd stayed there. Mm-hmm. I go in, I make a phone call to somebody, ask them to come get me out of town. They pull up, I hop in the truck, get me out of town. We run off. At this point in time, a buddy of mine, he was dating a friend, somebody, not really a friend at that time. I didn't know her very well, but he was dating her. And we end up outside of town at another friend's house whose parents are out of town. I go in, I raid their house, I take some old credit cards that they have, and I take their keys to their vehicle. It's time to go. We got to be.
You're desperate.
Yeah, we got to go.
You got to do something bad, or you're gonna go to jail.
Yep.
Now they both might occur, but you're trying to not go to jail.
So we end up getting out of town. And at this point, I'm pretty sure it's heavy. Like, it's real heavy. The friend with the car, we take off. We end up going to Florida. Take off to Florida. We come back at some point. It's like, all right, it's over. Let's go back. Been away for a month or so. It was time to go back. So we come back and we just hide out outside of Johnstown. People can still come see us. We can still get things if we need them, this and that. And then a buddy of mine comes out and he's like, let's do this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Mm-hmm. Let's go do this. We go out and we start stealing 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, motorcycles out of people's garages. We're riding around. We're having a ball. Things are fun. We stay outside of Johnstown one night after we had done this in this old, what I thought was an abandoned pole barn. I didn't realize that it was on somebody's right behind their house. It was on their property. Like, they were going to, like, shit was going to get fucked up here in a second. So I fell asleep. I wake up to the cops poking me, the sheriff. Hey, get up. And I was like, oh, fuck. There's cops everywhere. They're standing all around us. I tried to take quick, see what's going on, who's here, who's not, what do I need to do. At that point in time, I had a buddy that I knew his name, social security number, address, wife's name. Like, I had all the info I needed to be somebody else. This cop gets in my face, and we starts like, you're staying on somebody's property. This lady found you. Like, you need, like, who are you? Well, I give him somebody else's name. I didn't give me mine. I gave him my buddies.
Did you have a warrant out at this point?
Yeah. At this point, I thought I did. I didn't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure I had a warrant for
this
reporting.
Is pre-social media, pre-internet. This is early 2000s,
I mean,
right?
at this point, 90s? I had a pager, and we used cell phones.
Yeah.
Or, pay phones.
Yeah. So,
you know
90s?
95?
Yeah.
96, early 96. So we, I used my alias. The cop comes back, and you can just tell and sense he's suspicious. He doesn't think, there ain't no way. So I didn't exactly know what's going on. We had to apologize to the lady. We're sorry. It rained out. We were just getting out of the rain. We didn't think we was causing any harm. We leave. Heading down the road, there's another sheriff sitting in the middle of the road with one of the 3-wheelers that we had stolen, laying on its side. I was like, what is going on? This is weird. Like, nothing's making sense. Well, I'm in my buddy's car. He left his car, and I had to take his car to leave, and he's not there. So I didn't know what was going on. Well, come to find out, he had taken the three-wheeler. He was riding. The cops had shown up. He tried to run from him. He wrecked it. Ended up hiding in the woods away from them. They end up catching him. Well, now the other cops are up on the hill getting us all at the same time this is happening. Like, I'm in the midst of like my life, like my freedom is over.
Yeah.
But like I'm getting away. This is wild.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets out. I'm staying in Columbus at this point at these people's apartment. And he gets out and he comes over and he says, look, he said, I'm going to tell you this once. He said, I was in the room with this detective and he's asking me where you're at. And I was like, okay. Well, through this whole thing, this whole time that we were hiding out and not hiding out really, quote unquote, I had been bodyguarding for a buddy of mine's girlfriend's mom to make money on the side. She was a call girl. In all actuality, she was just a hooker. Mm-hmm. Now that I know, but to me, she was a call girl.
Right.
So we were carrying guns, bodyguarding for her. We had we were trying to get a hold of Colombians to get me, see if it could, would they get me out of the country? Can I go somewhere and you guys put me to work? Whatever it may be. There was all these things going on behind the scenes. Well, come to find out that he told me, he said, hey, this detective's out to kill you. They're not going to put up with your shit anymore. They know you carry a gun. They know you're causing a ruckus and they don't like it. He had said, they get you backed in a corner, they're going to kill you. Mm. Okay, then. Now, listen. When they're not going to point punches, it's time to go. I got to get out of here. So we had run into a friend. It was actually her older sister was an acquaintance of mine through high school. She was a friend of my sister's, but we had known each other. And then there was my buddy of mine, and then my girlfriend at the time, and her that had a car. And I was like, hey, I got to get out of here. I got to go. I got to leave. And they were all like, okay, we'll go. I'm like, okay. So we get in the car and we start a cross-country trip a couple times. We leave here and we go down through Indiana, all the way down to where I thought, you know what, let's just go to Mexico. Fuck it, they can't get me there, right? Dude, I'm a fucking 19-year-old kid that don't know the fucking jack about the world, really. I know what's around me and what I know to do. I didn't know how things really worked, right? So we take off. Well, at this whole point in time, I'm like, we need money. So a couple things have to happen. One of them is you have to just stomp some people's doors in and go in and take what's not yours. Or you learn how to rob drug dealers. Mm-hmm. Because they really aren't going to report nothing. I wouldn't.
They have cash and they're not going to report it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now you might die, but...
I mean, there's always that possibility, yeah. Right? So Ed had told me that a long time ago when we were on the streets in Zanesville. It's the best people to rob are drug dealers. Not the high ones. You don't want the big guys. You want the ones underneath of them.
That are carrying the cash.
Yeah, that have the money still before they go re-up, all that stuff. So we start flashing a little bit of money around in some cities, and we find out the people that's got this and that, and you know what I mean? Take our chances. Mm-hmm. You take some duct tape and a gun with you and have at it. Let's see if it works. So we're robbing drug dealers. We're robbing houses. We get to Mexico, we get to Texas, and we're not very far. We're in between San Antonio and Mexico. And I pull over to the side at a convenience store, I guess. It wasn't really a truck stop. It was more of a mom and pop place. And I go in and I'm kind of milling around, and I was looking for somebody to ask some questions to, because I don't know how things work going across the border and this and that. And as this lady actually came up to me and she goes, son, are you okay? Is everything all right? I said, well, I have a couple questions. And I started asking her about going across the border and this and that. And she told me a story about how her husband went hunting in Mexico. And they had pulled him over, and he had one shotgun shell in his truck. They took his truck, put him in jail, lost him. It cost her almost $12,000 in that truck to find him and get him out of prison, Mexican jail.
And he's probably lucky. That was probably a small price to pay.
And I said, okay. I said, well, I guess that's not where I'm going to go then.
Yeah.
So we start back across the coast. We come back up out and we start across the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, all the way back over into Florida. And I'm like, we'll stay in Florida for a while. Long story short, it really, like, other than stories, nothing drastic happened through, like, we just travel. Is getting money. Mm-hmm. So we go from there all the way to Detroit thinking we'll go to Canada. I find out when we get to Canada what it takes to get to Canada and what's going to happen. We leave there and go all the way to Vegas. I think, what better place? There's a lot of money in Vegas. We go to Vegas. We stay a couple of days. We leave Vegas, and I'm like, you know what? We've been gone 3 months. We've put on fucking tens of thousands of miles on this car, just driving, doing nothing, causing havoc wherever we go. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's all it is. So I'm like, let's go back. But so everyone sits down. We're like, hey, let's go through Yellowstone. Let's go see Yellowstone, and then we'll see Old Faithful, and then we'll just make our way back across the top half of the country and get back to Ohio, and we'll just figure it out from there.
Might as well go to Montana, right?
Yeah, so we go up through Yellowstone, see Old Faithful. We're taking our time. We end up staying in a little town. Big Timber was the name of it, at a motel. Well, apparently cops at night don't have anything better to do, so they go through the parking lots at night in little towns and they run license plates. Well, license plate to our car come back stolen. It was the girl's car that we were with. It was still in her dad's name, though, not hers. Her dad had found out who she might be with. Reported it stolen, wants it back. So I wake up to a knock on the door and the phone ringing all at the same time. And I was like, this is weird. So I answer the phone first. It was the lady at the front desk that said, hey, she goes, I'm just letting you know that's a cop standing at your door and they're looking for you. And I was like,
so you're outed at this point.
Oh, this is weird. Like,
that's what you think, right?
Yeah, things are, and I'm done. I guess it's over. I go over to the door and he's knocking on the door and he's got his gun drawn. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm in trouble. So I go over to the door, over to the window, and I slide the window open, and you can pop the screen out. We're on the bottom floor. I'm like, I push the screen out, grab my gun, grab money. I said, hey, I'm taking off. I said, the cops are at the door. I go on, hop out, go right to the car. Everybody else follow me. Here we go.
Cops are waiting at the front. You're out the back.
I'm gone. We get in the car. I hit the interstate. And I'm thinking, all right. Well, not thinking Montana's huge. Now that I'm grown up and know it's fucking monstrous. Exits are few and far between. Very few and far between. Somewhere in this, I think we passed one exit, but by the time we passed that exit, the cop is behind me now. And I look in the rear view, and there comes a cop. And I'm like, man, this is, well, here we go. And I'm not ready to pull over yet. So we start a high-speed chase. One cop turns into two turns into three. I come up on this. At the point in time, I thought it was because of me. I thought we were having a roadblock. And now that I know and I look back and understand what happened, I get it. And it was explained to me later on. We come up to a bridge, and I was coming down off this hill, and there was cops in our lane over blocking one of our lanes, and it was the one closest to the inside of the bridge, and we could only go through the other one. Well, I was probably 3 or 4 cops behind me at this point, and I'm coming off of it, and I start to slow down thinking I'm going to let all them cars go through, and then I'm just going to take off. Well, there's cops and emergency vehicles on the other side of the road, too, and I'm like, this is weird. They're already set up for me. Like, now that I look back on them, I'm like, you're really not that fucking important, Jason. You know what I mean? What had happened was right before we had started down into that valley, they had a fatal accident on the other side of the road. So they had blocked their side and blocked our side closest to them, and they were only letting one lane through. It wasn't about me. It was about them. The guy on this side, when he seen us coming and it was all radioed through, made it about me. So when I get slowed down and we start through there, the cop draws his gun on me right on the side of the road. And I just leaned over in the seat away from him. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to shoot, it's over, or I'm getting through here. He didn't shoot. We went through. And I don't know what the mileage-wise, I know the overall, but mileage-wise how far we had gone. I ended up in the little town of Columbus, Montana. I end up hitting the exit ramp. I end up going, man, I'm turfing people's yard, the baseball field. Like, I'm trying to get away from these guys. Not knowing, I'm like, you're really not getting anywhere. Like, I get that now. They got entrance ramps blocked. They got exit ramps blocked. I'm going around them. I end up back on the interstate. I end up taking the next road so we can, I'm trying to, not, once again, dumb, not knowing what I don't know. I'm just trying to hit a state line. Let's get out of this state. It'll be okay, right? I'll just get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up hitting the side road. I end up hitting the side road where there's a 1-lane bridge. They're repairing the bridge. And I'm like, I got to go across it. I mean, I'm not stopping. So I start out onto the bridge, and there's nobody on it. So I'm like, here we go. I start out across this bridge, and the farther I get across it, and it goes across, I believe, the Yellowstone River. And I start out across it, and I'm probably about 2/3, 3/4 of the way across it, and I see a car front end poke out. And they're coming at me. Well, they didn't make it too far. Obviously, they seen me, and I'm heading straight towards them. Well, she obviously starts backing up because I can start to see her get out of the way, and I'm not stopping. Like, I'm either we're going to hit or you're going to move.
Mm-hmm.
She moves. I get down the road. They pull a set of stop sticks on me. I go around them. Right off the side of the road. Through the grass. I missed those. Later on, they had done another set. I'd missed those two. We're running out of gas. I make a corner. I don't know where I'm at this point. At that point in time, I just know there's a road that goes off to the left, and there's a semi coming. And I jump right over in front of the semi, and I jump off right before he gets to me so I can block the cops that are behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, well, we're going to run out of gas. Like, I got to find somewhere to get out and just run. I'm just going to get out and take off. I look up into the distance, and I realize what's ahead of me is now for me. There's cop cars everywhere, like parked across the road, all kinds of shit. And I'm like, nah, that roadblock's for me. I see this gravel road off to the side, and I take it. I'm like, I hit this gravel road. I'll stir up dust. I'll get to the end somewhere, wherever it goes. I'll hop out the car. I was telling the people with me, look, you tell them I made you go. You tell them I had a gun, and I made you go with me. Walk free. Don't get involved in this. Tell them I made you. I'm going to go on the run. I'll handle whatever it takes. I get closer and closer toward it down this road, and I realize the road don't go anywhere. The road dead ends. Well, it dead ends like a hillside, and then there's a trailer on the right and a house on the left. And I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have a standoff. Like, all this shit's going through my mind all at the same time, and I don't, to this day, I don't understand how. I really don't. I don't understand how all these things are just projecting through my mind, going off. Well, all I can think about is I'm just gonna have a standoff with them. Here we go.
Desperation.
So I turn into the trailer. I'm like, it's easier to take guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can see everything out of it.
Get underneath of it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I go sliding through the yard, ram it and park. I hop out the car and start heading to the trailer, and I look up, and there stands a lady in the doorway. And I was like, uh-oh.
This just got deep.
Well, I throw my gun up, and I was like, get back in the house, and I'm yelling. I get back in the house, get back in the house. She goes into the house. I get in the house, and there's a guy standing in there, and he's over by the hallway in a mobile home. He was pulling his pants on when I walked in. I lowered the gun, and I said, get on the fucking ground. And he takes off running back to the hallway. Well, a couple things. Now, first one went through my head. He's going to get a gun. Mm-hmm.
He's coming out of the shotgun.
Yeah, we're in deep shit. So I go running back. Well, he was heading out the back door when I grabbed a hold of him. And, I mean, I was at this point, 130 pounds, 135 pounds maybe. This guy's probably 6'2". I didn't tell you the weight, but he's a big old farm boy. I grab a hold of him, and somehow he ended up down on the ground trying to grab the gun out of my hand. I just reached up, popped one off right through the ceiling. Well, funny side story, it went off right through the smoke detector. So the smoke detector's making noise. He just drops to the ground. He's like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, get out in the living room. And I reached up, knocked the smoke detector down, quit making noise. We start walking out, and I look over into one of the side rooms, and there sits a young girl. I'm like, fuck. Here we go. Oh, boy. I get everybody out into the room. We have conversation. I apologize refutably. I end up letting everybody go. I let everyone out.
Because that's not who you are.
No, it's not. I didn't want anybody to be there in the first place. So I let everybody go. We have conversations with the cops. We all slowly walk out one by one, give up. End up in jail, obviously. End up in prison, end up court, get jail time. So I got 25 with 10 for the gun, with 10 suspended. So I ended up with 25 years. And at that point in time, time-wise, you get a quarter of it to the parole board, half of it to discharge. So you get it for a good time. So during this whole escapade of prison time, I get moved from Montana. Due to overcrowdedness, we end up moving to Texas, to a private prison. They shut it down. We end up moving to a CCA in Tennessee. Then they built one in Montana, so we moved from Tennessee back to Montana to a private prison. Normal escapades, doing drugs, pills, still high, don't care. I get a ton of prison time. I'm fine. Had told myself, though, I was going to get sober 6 months before parole board, just so I could get out. Didn't really have any plans, just wanted to get out. As time goes on, I thought more and more people I met, more and more things I learned. I'm like, you know what? I'll probably get out, go good for a little while, 6-8 months, make me a couple big deals, get as much money as I can, and then I'm just probably going to leave. I am going to leave, and I will go down through Mexico, down through the third world countries, end up in Europe somewhere maybe, hop a boat, get a job, whatever. That is a big plan, right? So I end up at some point in this, at the CCA place in Shelby, Montana, I meet a young lady. Actually, I see her. And as she was in a group of new guards. They were making their tour of the prison, checking it out.
So you go from this crazy upbringing, cooking crack and selling drugs at 13, 14, parents in and out, your stepbrother kills your stepdad.
Yep.
You had a friend die. And then you go on a high-speed chase like O.J. Simpson, like Cops version, with essentially hostages in the car, hold people hostage and are in prison at this point. And you are 19 or 20?
At this point, when it all went down, I turned 21 in jail, in county jail.
So before you can drink alcohol legally, you have lived 100 different lives.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you just realize what happened in less than, call it 15 years of life. You have one of the most insane stories ever, and that's only a part of it.
Yeah.
We're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back to this because it only gets better from here. We just broke down the horrid part of the story, but my God, does it get better. So we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com. If you want to be a part of an amazing culture, change your life with the best coach you could ever have in CrossFit, Jason Tomlinson, where can you find CrossFit Uprising?
You can go to CrossFit-Uprising.com. We're located at 650 McKinley Avenue in Newark.
You are never going to find another culture of CrossFit gyms that will match this one right here because of this man's story. You had the breakdown, right? So you break down the reality, which is horrible, horrible pain
Yeah.
and events. And then you started to bridge away from that because you want a better life. So keep on going. You meet this young lady, and then you start to build this environment that's different, right? You bridge away. So let's talk about that.
So like I've been we got moved around a lot, right? Like we got shipped all over due to overcrowdedness and all kinds of things. And I had found we were doing some hobby things. I was making some money selling some hobby hitching horsehair outside of the prison and so forth. And at this point, I still wasn't sober per se. Like I was still smoking a little weed, so forth in prison. Wasn't into anything heavy anymore at that point, but I still wasn't sober. But I'd seen this girl mixed in this crowd of new members or new guards they were showing around. Well, then I didn't see her again for a while, and I didn't think about it anymore, really, I guess. And I'd seen her in there, and I thought, she's really pretty. Like, I mean, locked up with a bunch of dudes. It's a girl. Like, she was. I was like, that's cool. I like wonder who she is. And one day I was coming back. I used to work in the gym at this point over in the recreation department. We would clean it. We ran basketball games, stuff like that. I was coming back from work, and I walked in, and I got to the stairs to walk up, and I had headphones on and I head down, and I was kind of keeping to myself. And I looked up, and somebody's standing in front of me, and it's her. And I was like, excuse me. And I stepped to the side. She took the stairs, walked towards the door, and I stopped to stare at her. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I like her. Didn't think too much about it. Well, I start seeing her more and more around. Well, she starts working out the rec department. I'm like, this is cool. I get to be around her. I'm in now the office. I talk to her some. There's a lot of some really funny side stories and things that, I had said at times to her and so forth through this. But one day I walked in and told her I liked her. And one of two things can happen if you do that with a guard. Either she's cool with it, or she calls she calls her buddies down, and then I'm fucking going to the hole. And I'll probably eventually maybe end up catching another charge for it. Well, I didn't go to the hole. Kind of rode out. She kept talking to me. We kept talking. She ends up getting fired. About a month went by, maybe, after she had left. I just couldn't get her off my mind. Like, it just wouldn't stop, but I don't know.
That's the only thing that probably give you any, fulfillment at all in your life, maybe.
Yeah, at that point in time. One day, a mutual friend of ours who was another guard, I was over cleaning, and I was in the janitor's closet, and I was emptying the bucket and so forth. And she was standing there, and they had to open and unlock doors and stuff, so it wasn't abnormal for her to be standing there. She put her hand up on the side of the jam, and she goes, hey, somebody's waiting for you to call them. And I didn't understand what she was saying, and I said, what? And she looked at me, and she looked at her hand. Well, sticking out of her hand, fingers, was a note. She goes, there's somebody waiting for you to call them. Fucking dropped everything right into the thing, reached over like I was doing, grabbed it from her. I said, hey, I'm going home. Can you call me out? She called me out, and I went back home, and I knew who it was. And I called her, and we started talking. And I called, and we kept talking, on the phone over and over every day. And it just, all we had was talk, so everything came out. We talked about everything from both sides. And one day I asked her if she'd like to, this is 6 months later, dude. We're 6 months in. We've never touched, kissed, hugged, and all we've ever done is talk. We don't even see each other right now. And I said, hey, how would you like to carry my last name? And she goes, well, I thought you'd never ask. And I was like, what? So I sent her a power of attorney to sign my name to any document legally that she needed to do. She went and got everything she needed for us to be married. Tried it on Friday, didn't happen. On Monday, goes down to the Justice of the Peace. Asked the justice, can I do this? She said, let me check. She called in a sheriff, I believe, and a clerk or somebody from the hallway as witnesses. She said, I'm going to marry this lady basically to herself, but she'll be legally binding to her husband. She signed her name, my name, the two witnesses signed, the judge approved it. On Tuesday, I find out through legal mail that I'm married. So I always tell people I have two anniversary dates, the one that my wife married us and the day that I found out.
This is it. Keep going. It's insane.
So, at this point, that's it. At this point, I know it's time to get sober. It's on.
You want to get out now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want to be out. Now I don't want to be out to make a big deal and run. Now I want to be out to be with my wife.
Yeah.
Which at that point was still foreign to me, but like.
How many years had you been in at this point?
At this point, 6, because I'm about to go to the parole board.
Yeah.
2, all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So go to that. Go to that part.
I end up married. I end up going up in front of the parole board, and they're like, "Hey, no, not the severity of this crime. Give us 1 more year." I just got married. Now I have to tell my wife, like, I have to do another year. Like, you have to hang out for a year, at least.
And what's her reaction?
Nothing. She was. She
fights, right?
She's in.
Yeah.
She's like, okay.
And she's doing everything she can to get you out.
Yep. So at this point, they won't let us visit because she had worked there. So I had a buddy who was a lawyer on the street who got caught with a bunch of drug shit. I told him about it, and I talked to him about it, and I was like, hey, I said, this is happening. He goes, okay, well, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. So he files a lawsuit for me against the warden and the lady in the mailroom for like $2.4 million apiece. He said, this is how it's going to work, though. Don't get freaked out. You're going to sue them. They're going to move you back to Montana. They're going to countersue you. You're going to drop your lawsuit. They'll drop theirs. That's how it's going to work. I said, okay. I sue them. They received their court lawsuit on Friday. Next Thursday, they move me back to the state prison. Within a week, they countersued me. And within the next month, I dropped my suit. They dropped theirs. I got what I needed to be able to have my wife come visit me now.
You're moved.
I'm moved. So I'm at the state prison. We file so she can come see me. A month later, she can see me. And at this point, I've been married for September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 9 months? 8 to 9 months. Never kissed my wife till then. It was probably the most weirdest, oddest kiss in the world. Felt like I was
not even imagine.
16 years old again on somebody's front porch.
Well, you've been in prison for a while.
Yeah.
You've been on the run before that. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So we visit. I go up in front of the parole board again. And in that time, I had gotten in trouble and got sent to the hole, arguing with a captain. I go up in front of the parole board after I got in trouble, and parole board was like, all right, so what's the deal? And I tell them, and the guy on the parole board looks at me and says, if you give me 1 year clear conduct, I'll let you out next year. Okay. So I got to do another year.
Which is demoralizing to you, right? It's an opportunity, but it's demoralizing.
But it's demoralizing for a few reasons. Number one is like my wife has to wait on me for another year. Mm-hmm. That'll be 2 years. Like from the moment we got married. Like,
the ask of that is incredible.
It's a lot, yeah. So we set a routine. I keep clear conduct. Parole board's coming back. It's a year. She's been coming to see me. I've been hitching still. I've been trying to make things for her so she has money too, and she's working. I go up in front of the parole board. I'm standing there, and that guy says, the same guy told me to give me a year. He goes, what are you doing here? I said, sir, you told me to give you 1 more year clear conduct, and you'd let me out. The guy sitting next to him, one of the other parole board members, is doing this. And he looked up at me, and he looked at him, and he slid the paper to him. And he goes, "What's this?" He said, "Yep, I sure did. It's written right here that that's what I do." He goes, "Parole granted." Just like that. It was like,
The weight of your entire life.
it just came off of me again.
Yeah.
Right now.
I cannot
That
even
feeling.
imagine. I can see it on your face.
It's not over though. Right? So like the fight isn't over. Like I still have to be approved and come, because the only place I'm getting out to is here.
And you're now a target probably by the others in there. They don't want you to leave.
Yeah.
They want you to be as miserable as they are.
I have a few really, really good friends in there still. So like as it goes on, I start to realize who they are because they start to keep me out of trouble. So 2 years, I finally get parole. Well, the fight's not over for 8 more months. We go for about another 8 months of fighting for me to get out because I filed for interstate compact to come back to Ohio. Because I didn't have any ties in Montana. They weren't going to let me out within the state. I had to be out. That was part of stipulation and go back to Ohio. Well, I have to go through Ohio. They have to approve me.
So the state has to prove your release to Ohio because that's where your residence was at.
Yeah,
before.
because that's where I have everybody.
Yeah.
My whole family's here.
Right.
So I come back. So we fight for me to get back here through the running of somebody's mouth as a target, not to get out. Somebody on the outside had run their mouth about my wife bringing me drugs in prison. Completely false. I never asked her to. I would never do that. Because of that, it's in my file somewhere. When that file gets sent back to the Justice Department here in Ohio, to the Department of Justice, they see that, they have to investigate it. Well, during this whole investigation, they had looked and it wasn't true. They couldn't find anything on it. My paperwork gets somewhere lost. My wife's calling every day. Dude, our life as a married couple was stress. Me getting out. It was. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, that girl went through hell for me.
She was your angel.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Like
Hence-
it's absolutely
Hence
incredible.
the nickname tattooed on the back of her neck. It says angel. She is.
There's no doubt.
She is a living, walking angel. My angel. Dude. She did everything possible to get me out.
And to support you.
Through fucking all of
Yeah.
this. So somewhere towards the 8-month mark, this she calls the Interstate Compact office here in Ohio out of the blue. Got on the phone with somebody and broke down and told them, look, this is what's going on. I no one's answering me, blah, blah, and like how to fit with them. And this person said, hold on, let me go check it out. And I know what she's got to be thinking. It's like, here we go again. Another dead end. So we go. The person goes and checks. That person comes back onto the phone and says, hey, it was on another floor in somebody's basket. I have it in my hand. I will send it back today.
What year is this?
2002.
Wow. And you're
2004, sorry. We were married in 2002, 2004, 2 years later.
and how old were you? Roughly.
20 years ago. Fucking 28, 29.
So she comes and gets you, and you're free.
Yeah, so I get granted. They give me an out date. You have to be back in Ohio by a certain time, so many days. We're going to drive because she has a car. So we got to put all her stuff in it. She's leaving with me. She comes and gets me. We stay at her mom's one night. We get in the car the next day. Beat feet. We're back in Ohio. 3 days
What was your
later.
thought leaving the prison? What'd you do?
There was a few things that you don't do. Or you do and you don't. I walk out, dude, and I walked out the front doors. I walked out the front fucking doors.
You had to feel like you were getting ready to get arrested again, right? Like, this is not possible.
And you didn't, for a long time, you don't ever let go of that. Mm-hmm. You don't. It hangs on you. Every time a cop's behind you, they're after you.
Yeah.
When I walked out, she's standing there, and we put her in the car, and I drove. Because in there, you could get your license before you leave. They take you and give you a driver's test and so forth. You turn your mirrors down. When you hit the front gate, you turn your mirrors down, and you don't look back. There's two things you do. I turned my mirrors down, and I didn't look back.
And you never have?
Never have. Not once. So
you built that bridge away from it. You got clean, you got out, you have a wife.
Dude, in the weirdest circumstances possible too, right? Like, our relationship is totally built on something different. Completely different than anybody else's.
It is. There is coincidences in life. There's things that you could tie to just a random run into somebody. That was fate.
Yeah.
Destiny intervened. It was meant to be. There was never going to be something to stop that.
The moment I thought that what I wanted to do, or what I thought I was going to do when I got out, was changed completely by one person.
And it was the one person that you never had, but the one person you always needed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Someone that didn't abandon you, that believed in you, seen something in you that nobody in your entire life before that had. Yeah. Now let's fast forward to the last couple of years, and then we can start on the build up and your highway to success. So you're married 20 years.
Married, we live a normal life, right? We get jobs.
You have a daughter?
We end up pregnant. We end up with a daughter, who is now 15. So that would have been 15 years ago. Normal life. I meet some people along the way, really cool people. One of them being Corey. Was really wild because I was coaching CrossFit when I met him. He was dabbling in CrossFit along with his other stuff, and we become really good friends. Like, I used to go hang out at his old place with him and so forth, and we take. I started into CrossFit, and I knew instantly I wanted to coach it. Like, there was something missing in me, and I knew for an instant, like, I need to coach this. Like, I was scared to death talking in front of people until I got my L1 and was ready to coach, dude. It was like I'd been doing this for years. I was ready to talk in front of people. I was ready to stand in front of groups. I met Corey. We hit it off. I run into him every now and then. Well, then life happens. We buy a house. We end up moving. I'm coaching at another gym at this point. I'm the head coach and programmer there. Me and Corey's, we just, like, every time we see each other, we never like things.
Right.
Hey, we pick up right where you left off.
6 hours, 6 months, it don't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And that's when you know you got a true friend or brother.
Yeah.
There.
When you don't need that person every day. You just pick up right where you left off.
Yep.
So we do that. COVID happens. I'm training with my buddy in the garage. I'm trying to be a competitor. I want to be a full-on CrossFit competitor. My dude takes me in through COVID. We're training in his garage. We're bashing heads with each other. I make it to 36th in the world in my age group as a CrossFitter.
So in the world, how many competitors?
At that year, there was 36,000 or 37,000 in my age group.
So 37,000 competitors, and you're 36th overall.
Yeah. I still didn't make it. Like, I still felt like it was a big letdown to everybody.
Top 1% though in the world.
And me and my wife go over this. We go rounds about it. Like, I let her down for letting me do what I do, and she still loves me. And shut up, basically.
Yeah, well, I've told you that too.
Yeah, I know. So we go through COVID, and I end up at a local towing service. Towing cars is where I was at, and I got tired of doing that. I got tired of it. I ended up at another job, at a factory job, doing boxes, and me and them had a falling out. Obviously, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Never settled in at those jobs.
You had a felony. So it was hard for you to get a job.
It was a lot harder than you thought, because I was stuck. I was at the same job for 12 years.
And there is no statute of limitations on
finding it. They'll find it. It's out there. So the jobs I have are because of friends or because they know me. Like, I get these jobs. And I had an out with those people at that factory job. I was sitting at home one day, and at this point, I'd been to Corey's, going over at 4 a.m. I'd seen you a few times. I seen all you guys over there. I started over there because I needed help with my handstand push-ups. And I seen him in a volleyball game one night, and he's like, just come see me, I'll help you. You got to come at 4 a.m. though. Okay. So I go at 4 a.m. I start squatting with everybody. I start lifting on the side after everybody breaks out and does their thing for the day. I'm doing my thing. And I was sitting at the house one day, and Carrie's like, "What's wrong?" And I think I was feeling sorry for myself.
Because you had that culture back.
Yeah.
Right? You got a taste of that group.
And she's like, "What's wrong?" I said, I'm not doing what I want to do. I just feel like I'm floating through life. And she's like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to open a gym. That's what I want." Ultimately, we all know that's where I was like that. It's always been the goal. And she's like, "Look, don't bring it into our personal life. Like keep our personal finances separate from it." She's like, "And go do it. Study it, figure out what you need to do." Well, in this time, I had Corey confront me about telling my story. That's how it started. Sit down with me and tell your story. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one morning I was like, "Hey, when do you want me to come over and talk to you about, like, tell you the story?" And he's like, "Hey, we'll set something up. How about you do it on the podcast?" I was like, "What?" Now it's like weird to me, right? Because I hadn't grown up in this, like I had missed all the stuff that you guys had grown up in. So like when I got locked up, it was pagers and payphones. When I get out, dude, people are sitting on their cell phones in traffic, in cars. Mm-hmm. So like podcast was foreign to me. Like I knew what they were, but it was just weird. Mm-hmm. Well, I sat down and did the podcast with him, told my story. And they were like, "Why don't you write a book?" Like, write a book. Well, I realized I was kind of a boring writer. Now I understand more, like transcribe and all that stuff, like you guys tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, you suck at writing, just like I suck at writing, but you can tell a hell of a story.
Yes,
yeah.
I love telling stories. So I'm like, I got to go ahead. The wife's like, "Go do it." I'm like, okay. Well, I'm standing at Old School one morning, and standing next to me is you. Well, I knew you were R&R, and there's a building right there in front on the road, on Dayton Road. Like, it's a big building. Like, I wonder, what do they do with it? "Hey, dude, you own that building?" You're like, "Yeah." I was like, "What are you doing with it?" "Well, we use it for trainings." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I stood there, and I'll never forget, you were like, "Why? What do you want?" I was like, "Well, I'm looking for a building because I really want to open a gym." And you're like, "What?" I said, "CrossFit gym. I want to open a CrossFit gym." And I said, "I'm just looking for buildings." I said, "I thought maybe you guys had an empty building or spot or part of it or something." You're like, "No, I don't." We went on to talk, and like over the next couple of weeks, we just started talking. And I remember going to Corey, and I remember talking to you first. And you're like, "Look, I want to help you however I can. Since you brought this up to me, whatever it may be, blah, blah, blah." You kept on me about it.
Well, you were training right down the road from the house I was buying.
Yeah, and
so
I was actually training. You were buying the house.
Like
we talked about
less
that.
Than a mile.
And I was less than a mile. I was training at my buddy's garage. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, "I appreciate that. I'll probably come to you for some business advice. Like, I don't know anything about business. To run a proper business. I mean, drugs are easy. Somebody needs drugs. I sell them to them. I get money. Right. I move on."
Yeah.
So I was like, I went to Corey and said the same thing. I was like, "Look, would you mentor me in business? Like, you obviously know what you're doing. Like, you have a great big business. Like, you do really good. Can you help me?" And he was like, "Sure." I'll never forget. I was sitting in my house the next morning. I was sitting in my living room, and my phone buzzed. And I picked it up, and it was Corey. And I thought, that's weird. Opened it up, and it said, "Hey," he said, "I want to help you with your gym. How much money do you need?" And I was like, "What? Hold on a second. What?" It's like, I don't know, dude. I haven't got that far yet. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, I hadn't gotten into that part yet. I was still looking for a place. And he's like, "Hey, come see me." Fuck. This is weird. Like, nobody does this for me. Mm-hmm. It's never happened to me. I go see him, and he's like, "Hey," he said, and these are and all the stuff that's happening, like, I learned things along the way, right? Like percentages of ownership and how much you guys put in, like all the things. I'm learning that, right, as we go along. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know how it was going to be structured or how we were going to do this. He's like, "Look," he's like, "I know Jake's already talked to you about it. Make sure you ask him if he wants in on this." I was like, okay. He's like, you need to give us a number. We'll tell you how much we can put in. We get a percentage. Move on. I said, okay. So I come talk to you, and I'm like, hey, this is what Corey's offering me. And he said to make sure to check with you. And you're like, yeah. Actually, I think your words were fuck yeah, to be exact. Mm-hmm. I'm in.
Yeah.
And that was weird too, just so you know, standing there with you. That was weird. Like, I look at it now and it's not weird. Like, it's totally normal in my world now.
I've been on that side of it. Like, why does someone see something in me?
Dude.
Because I didn't even believe it when Jim Havens did it for me.
Yeah.
Right?
So, like, you give me Jim's name. I talk to Jim. Jim helps me. Like, and then this whole thing, I still don't have a building.
And I'll never forget, you're sitting in my office one day, and I can see the distress on your face. Because there's so many things, and there's so many obstacles. And you're trying to even reference them and don't even know how many are there. And I remember saying, Jason, just shut up for a minute. I was like, give me your keys.
I'll never forget that comment.
Give me your keys. And you're like, what are you talking? I said, give me your car keys. And I had you physically hand them to me.
I did.
And
I slid them across the table.
And I said, I'm going to introduce you to Jim Havens, and he's going to take these keys. You are going to sit in the back, and he's going to drive. And I want you to focus on coaching CrossFit, and Jim is going to expedite this journey, and he will take care of all the things that you think you know, but you don't, and all the things that you don't know about. You focus on CrossFit.
Wild, dude. It was wild to me.
You had a building lined up within a month, probably?
Yeah, finally had a building, found a place with Jim. Jim had said, hey, I got somebody, let me call him. That guy called me, and I said, hey, I know of a place, and I don't know if they're open, though. He goes, let me check. Call me back. Can you meet me there on Monday? Yep, sure can. We opened the door. It was perfect for what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we needed.
I remember you saying to me, it was, I don't know how to do this. And I said, well, Jason, it's a good thing that you don't need to. You don't need to know how because you have a who.
That was what it was. Give me the keys. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how. I didn't need to know how.
Because it didn't matter.
No. And I had multiple who's at that point now. I had Jim.
And you only needed 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And they had all the ones downstream that
That's
you could
all
ever
that mattered to me, was I had the who's that could direct me to the other who's.
You didn't have to put the performer together. Jim helped you put it together, right? Because you could have never done it at that point. You were not prepared for it.
No.
Right?
I was never, I wasn't prepared for anything that happened in that first 6 months.
And you didn't need to be.
The only thing I knew that I knew how to do was I knew how to
coach CrossFit,
program CrossFit. And
what did I keep telling you?
And deal with the people and my members and the people on the floor. I knew how to do that.
Yeah. You think about running the CrossFit side of it, and the rest will take care of itself.
And
it's hard to understand that because all this unknown is new.
Yes.
It's scary because you're taking on this responsibility now. And to be told, don't focus on all this important shit that's, hindering up. This is a huge change in your life.
Yes.
You just focus on the thing that you love to do. That's about fucking crazy. It's foreign.
It's way foreign because I'm used to controlling everything, which is very minimal, right? So I controlled what I could, and I used everybody, used the help of everybody around me to take care of everything else. And through that and those people, I've learned, right? Mm-hmm. So we were in our other place for 2 years, and I outgrew it in 2 years. We just moved at the beginning of July, so 2 months ago, we're in double the size of the place. And a lot of other things, amongst other things, like with the business dealings with you guys are moving forward too, finally. I took all of that, and I'm still learning. I still had a meeting with you this week that I still learned shit. Mm-hmm. I had a meeting with Corey last week that I had still learned things I didn't fucking know.
And that'll never stop.
And that's what I'm hoping, right? Mm-hmm. And I know one thing I do need to do, and I told you this, is I need to make sure I keep using you guys as resources and quit fretting over things for a week or 2 weeks at a time before I come and ask. You know what? I need to do what I did in the beginning.
Yeah.
Trust you guys.
Yeah. More than likely, we will be able to quickly resolve any issue you have at this point.
I know.
Because we've been there, done it, and we can probably see it before you even finish the sentence. The amazing part is whenever someone believes in you and you don't even really believe in yourself, you don't understand that this person genuinely believes in you because all you knew was bad your entire life. You didn't know any different outside of bad people, bad intent, only selfish intent, nothing to actually help me.
Yep.
And we showed you the most genuine, authentic version of ourselves to help you out. And it was so foreign that you probably mistrust it for a while.
It was way foreign to me. And then, but like, I quickly learned it. Like, I quickly learned that you guys seen something in me enough for me to start to believe in me. And then now I do.
Now you see it.
Now I believe in me. Now I believe in what you've seen.
You have the lowest of low possible 20 years ago. And you take what was the most catastrophic thing in your life, and now you are providing a sanctuary of uprising people. You're bringing a culture through CrossFit to change the area that we live in.
So I have a saying. I now want to be the person I wish I would have had.
We all, and this is me too, and I've told you this, we all are searching for that superhero when we're growing up, right? The pool hall. You were looking for someone to have faith in, to admire. And when we really start to live our life is when we know that we are in control of our destiny and no one else is. And by that, if you put all your faith in somebody else, you can be catastrophically disappointed. But if you put your faith in yourself, your future self, and become your own hero, but not today, the one in 10 years. Provide a vision for yourself of who you want to be in 10 years.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that is the person that would have saved you 20 years ago.
Yes.
Your superhero becomes the superhero that you were always looking for.
I want to be now. I want to be the person you guys were for me. Mm-hmm. I want to be the person to everybody else.
You want to be the person that you were looking for in that pool hall.
I want to see in them. I want them to see what I see. Whether that's through fitness, through their job, through their talk, through recovery, if it's somebody in trouble, whatever it may be, that's where I'm at now.
You want to build a personal infrastructure with iron.
Yep.
What you're doing is what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
That's probably why the brotherhood is so strong, because we're going down a different road with the same goal in mind.
Yep.
It's just a different version of it. But that's what the show is all about, the iron and infrastructure. You're building your own personal, professional infrastructure through iron, and you're creating a community, a culture, a bunch of badasses all through it. And I have to shout this out.
I got a bunch of them.
For all the R&R Pipeline people that listen to this. How many R&R Pipeline people were here?
Actually, your business partner's wife is here. Is your safety director? Is that what he is?
Yeah, so Leah and then
here. Emily's
Levi,
here. HR, and then Miss Susan.
Susan Atkins, you badass. I have never been more inspired by someone in my life than Susan, honestly.
I use her for all my stories.
I do too.
That's what I use her for. So.
Susan, I'm calling you out once again. You got to get on the podcast. You have to. It's
sit down with me.
Not negotiable.
It. I'll get on her.
Yeah, me too.
I'll tell her make it part of her. That'll be part of her WOD.
Perfect.
She'll do it.
Yeah.
So
post WOD interview, Jason. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to do another one here soon.
I do this with both of you. I'm going to do it with you too. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thanks for believing in me. Thanks for backing me.
Thanks for taking that leap of faith, brother.
I got it.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Awesome, man. Iron Infrastructure Podcast. This is the owner of CrossFit Uprising, Jason Tomlinson, from a horde breakdown to the build up, living the fulfilled life now on this journey, on his highway to success, building the infrastructure through the iron. Iron Infrastructure Podcast, we're out.